Good evening, creatures of the night. Just a small update. The story I was going to present tonight about the ghost encounters is actually going to be put on hold. When I was listening to it, proofing it, I noticed there's a glitch in it where you can't hear my voice, just this weird humming noise. So I'm going to re-record that one, and instead I'm going to present this story tonight. And I want your guys' opinion, just like last week. Only this time, do you think it's a Goatman, or do you think it's a Wendigo? Personally, I think it's a Goatman, because Wendigos don't come nearly that far south. But, again, you never know. Also, one other thing, thank you to the 5,933 creatures of the night that have made this channel possible. I hope to hear a lot more from you guys, and I hope to see a lot more of you subscribe. Here we go with this story. I hope you guys enjoy it. And remember,
don't miss your chance to scream.
I have moved between 5 homes in my lifetime. I caused a lot of trouble that led to it. Lots of arguments and storming out of the house. The final place I'm currently living at is my grandparents'. This is along with my dad and his fiancée. We're in Livingston, East Texas, and we only live 100 miles away from the Louisiana border. The area is your typical edge-of-town country area. Not heavily wooded, lots of ranches, but still plenty of areas for large animals to live. I am the only one in the entire group that believes in the paranormal. Moving out here into the woods sparked a further interest into it. I found YouTube channels that read encounters of people around the world. It also educated me on cryptids and folklore I never knew about. The ones I brushed off are slowly seeming more real to me, even though I didn't believe anything like a Wendigo or a Goatman would visit me. I learned the areas of their sightings, and the Texas-Louisiana area seemed too far south. But I couldn't have been more wrong. It was the end of winter this year, and I was listening to some music. It was 11 o'clock, and I had decided to turn in. The music drowned out most noises. Gunshots are common to hear, but even those I barely heard. This night was different, though, and the noise I was hearing just wasn't right. While I was laying there listening to one of my favorite bands, I was about to fall asleep and heard a tapping, slow and steady, like a metronome. 4 taps with a pause, and then the tapping started again. I live near trees, but the closest tree to my window is about 50 feet away, so I knew it couldn't be that. Besides, trees don't follow a pattern or tempo. It's random and sounds more like scraping, not tapping. What the hell is that? I thought to myself. Everyone in this house is already asleep, and nobody in the neighborhood knew me. Why would somebody be tapping on my window? My room is really dark at night, so if I moved around I couldn't be seen. I just needed to be quiet enough. Slowly, I rolled over. It took me a full minute, and then I saw this thing at the window. It had an elongated face. It was ugly, and it had what looked like ram horns sticking out of the top of its head. I saw the fingers and its right hand. Part of its arm showed, and it was covered in thick, curly hair. I can't really describe the hair. It was just unnatural and bizarre. The bottom of my window is above my head, and I'm 6 feet tall. So this thing had to be at least 7, maybe even 7.5 feet tall. I don't know if it saw me, but it continued for about an hour, and then I noticed it suddenly stopped and disappeared. Against all odds, I managed to fall asleep. I thought it was all over. God, was I wrong. That was only the beginning. It wasn't for a couple of days before this freak came back. It was raining all day before I turned in, and then it started again. I was scared and tried to ignore it, tried to sleep, and eventually, against all odds again, I drifted off into an uneasy sleep. But I didn't dream at all that night. The next day I woke up and remembered there's this patch of mud under my window. Maybe I could find a footprint or something to prove that this creature was still there. Even in the rain, a footprint should have been left behind. I walked to the back of the house. and I saw nothing. No footprints. This thing had to be 400 pounds. I'm 200 pounds, and I leave a footprint. But this thing didn't leave a footprint at all. I thought about it later. It has hands. Maybe it covered up the tracks. I called my friend, and for anonymity's sake, I'll call him Fry. At first, I called him about a camping trip. My 20th birthday was coming up, and I have a few friends that I wanted to go camping with. But everybody backed out except Fry. We talked about the plans at first, but even he noticed that something wasn't right with me, and he asked if anything was wrong. All I told him is that it was crazy out here. He said, "That's not what I mean. What's wrong with you?" I told him what I've been experiencing. He didn't interrupt me. He didn't laugh. He just listened until I was done, and agreed that what I was seeing really was crazy. Every night, the tapping continued, until we went on that camping trip. The campsite itself was closed, so we turned back and decided to just camp in my van. We had a bottle of Jack and some tequila. We used that to help us sleep, because even my friend was freaked out over the stories that I was telling him. We didn't want to lay awake there, looking out the window, waiting to see some kind of monster staring at us. But the thing is, there was no encounter that night, and I haven't seen that thing since. Why? Was it all in my head? Was it real? Why did it leave? Is it going to come back? The last encounter was in March. As I'm writing this, it's now June, and I'll be moving to Houston. I doubt it'll follow me there, but you never know.